All right, this will be part one of two-point perspective in AutoCAD doing a 2D drawing, make it look like a 3D drawing, two-point perspective. So the first thing I did was I copied the floor plan and brought that over into an area, just to give myself a lot of room. As you can see, I moved it away from everything else that I had in this file and brought the floor plan over here. And I also made a copy of the elevation here just so I could check the heights on this. There's a couple different ways to do this, and I'll show you what I think is the easiest way to start one of these perspective drawings at. So again, make sure I have plenty of room. Now I'm going to show you the layers that I've created all for 2-point. There's quite a few of them. I would suggest using heavily used layers in the 2-point. You're going to have a lot of lines going different ways, and starting out is sometimes it's harder to discern what's going on. And you never want to erase the lines, the control lines. You never know when you have to come back and fine tune something or correct something to get it looking correct. Remember, it's going to look one way in model space, and then when you get it to the cover sheet, and this will not be scaled, a 2-point perspective is not to scale, it's NTS. When you get it to the cover sheet, there may be some things that look not quite right, and you have to might come back to model space and do some modifications. So don't forget, do not erase anything, do not delete anything. Just put it on layers and you should be good to go. So after making these two copies, one of the elevation, one of the floor plan, I made the layers up, and I'm going to let you take a look at them. And if you want to take a screenshot or a picture of these, you're welcome to it. I labeled them all. I started all with the term 2-point, so I can keep them clustered in one area. And then I made designations after the 2-point. So it's a lot easier to get to. As you can see how many layers I'm creating in this drawing. I would suggest you use as many layers as you feel needed to control this, especially with the 2-point perspective. They are really needed. All right, so if you take a screenshot of those, everything's turned off right now, and I'll begin getting this set up. All right, so the first thing I did, like I said, is to make a copy of the floor plan, turn the interior walls off. I kept the windows and doors turned on, the garage door, 2 windows, and the front door. So the next thing I did was I made a control lines, and what I called those were the 2-point horizontal control and vertical control. So that's the first thing I made. So I'll turn those on, explain those real quick. All right, so a ground level line that extends beyond the building, and then a vertical control, and you have to pick which corner you're going to use for that vertical control. You want to come right off that one corner for the vertical control. So I picked this corner here. I feel that's going to be best representation. These two sides, the south side of these two of this building will be the best representation. All right. So the next thing I did is I went ahead and made some additional control lines. Let me show you here. As soon as it's really slow to open. All right, so that was vertical control, and then I did some horizontal control lines. I'll turn those on. I'm sorry, that's horizon line. I did put a horizon line in, and then I put the vanishing points on there. And then I put in the vertical control. All right, so those are the 3 that I did next. So I established, again, this is up to you where you want to put the horizon line. You can put it at any point, and then depending where you put it and how much of the roof you're going to see or how little of the roof you're going to see. So we'll see a little bit of the roof at this point here, not a lot of it. All right, and so the next thing, and then I put in the vertical controls, and all I did is bring down every feature or the outline of every feature, the corners, 2 sides of the windows, both sides of the doors, the center of the door on this one because I have a double door, and then the garage, the other window and the garage door and the corners. Brought them down so they intersected the horizontal control line. As you can see, this one didn't quite make it, and I'll just go ahead and correct that now. And CAD is running really slow. I don't know what the deal is here. All right. So once I have those established, now remember the vertical control is, we have this line here was actually the corner of the house. So that's part of that vertical control, but is designated as the initial vertical control on that. So just make sure you understand what you're using, the color coding you're using, and the lines you're using, because it's going to really get messy here in a little bit. So the next thing I did, as soon as I can get this to open up, is I went ahead and created some horizontal control lines. Back up here. And what I did is I created a offset feature. These are called feature lines. And what I did is, I'll show you here, I'll turn these on first, and then I'll come back to the drawing and show these to you. What I did is, and I'll turn on the text. I have some text with that as well. So you can see all the text I put in here. And this will be 2-point text. All right. So what I did is I just measured from, much like we did in the elevations, I measured from our ground line to the bottom of window, from the ground line to top of window, ground line to top of door, ground line to top of ridge, and ground line to top plate, and then ground line to top of garage door. I did all those, and then I put it on another layer that I can see really well. And again, I started it from the same corner. Make sure you're on this initial corner that you're using for your vertical control. And then what I did is I did offsets. So I measured what the bottom, from the bottom of the building to the bottom of window, what that distance was, and I did an offset accordingly. And I did it for each one of these. So top of window, top of door, top of garage, top plate, etc. So after I got those all done, this just happened to fall a little bit over here. So after I got all those done, I was able to see where everything was started at. And then, so the next thing I needed to do is go ahead and turn on some horizontal control lines. And the first ones I did were for the building itself. And let's see, doors east. And so that would be door control lines. I'll turn those on. And then the east control lines, I'll turn, oops, I didn't want those just yet, not the east. And then the, oh yes, and the window control lines. All right. And so we'll start with those. And within those, we aren't showing up here, so let me come back and make sure we have those on the right layer. All right, so I went ahead and turned on these lines here, this one here, and these are the south control lines, and I just designated by the size of the building, make it easier to break it up. And what I did were these control lines, they run from the top plate to the bottom plate. These are my offset lines. So the bottom plate, of course, is right at the ground level, and the top plate is up there. And I ran those right back to this vanishing point. So right in there. And I use donuts for the vanishing point, and then the center mark is in there and help me zero in on that. All right. So I ran those back there, and then I went ahead and made some additional horizontal control lines, and I'll turn those on now. And that will be on for the south side. It's east, ridge line, and I'll go ahead and turn on the ridge line. The door control line, and the window control lines. I'm going to add those in there, and I'll go ahead and turn the ridge line on, and that should get us going. All right, so the next thing I did is I ran control lines from this point right here, which is bottom of window, and I took that control line and I ran that back to the vanishing point. And then I ran the top of window, so that was bottom window. I ran top of window, which is this one right here. I did the same thing, ran that from this point right here back to the vanishing point. And I did that for each feature that I have here. So we have top of door here, another control line. I ran that back there, and then the top plate, I ran that back there as well. And then the ridge line I had offset up here, and right from this point I ran the ridge line back there. So I got all that going, ran all those back there. So that starts, enables me to start putting in things like the windows and the doors and the other window here on this side. So I'll go ahead and turn those on, because now I made another layer for just the door and windows alone, and these are just south doors and south windows. So I'll turn those on now. I went ahead and outlined those. There's the door, and there's another one. And there is where's my window? East doors right there. And I should have one more for the east windows. I'm sorry, east. Let me go, I'm on the south. Sorry about that. South, and then south. Should be south doors are on. Okay, I already turned those on. All right. And I don't see those on, so let me see. And sometimes these lines we're having a difficulty overlaying the tops of these. Just let me verify that I have those 2-point doors on. There we go. Didn't turn that on. Okay. And keep wanting to turn that on, and okay, so we're good on that. So now I made my doors. I just basically outlined the areas that were shown. So from the vertical and the horizontal, the vertical drop down and the vanishing point, the lines, the control lines going back to the vanishing point, that was able to establish where my window was, where my door is, and where my window is here. And notice on these doors now, this is our new ground level, because this point right here goes back to our vanishing point. So that's our new ground level line right through here. And you can see how difficult this is to get these designation on these lines. But our doors, I wanted to show you, our door just goes down to our new ground level. It doesn't go down to our original ground level, which was this one down here. All right, so that was on the east side. I also have the ridge line. I went ahead and just drew a line straight back to the vanishing point for the ridge line, and that was able to get that going. So on the next phase of this, or on the next video, I'll show you the other side of this, which I call the east side, and then we will continue on, and then I'll show you the end product after we get all this done. But the biggest thing is, remember, you need to use a lot of layers for control. As you can see, we have a lot of lines going on. It can get pretty messy pretty quick. All right, I'll have another video posted for part 2 of doing 2-point perspectives. Thanks.